Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. I'm Jill the Wandering Stamper. It's early this morning. Nobody else is up. Well, I should say the dog and my husband aren't up yet, but I decided to get up while it's quiet and shoot my video today. So today we're making a shutter card. I love these. I can't believe I haven't shown you how to make one yet, but they're lots of fun. I'm going to make a Christmas card, and I'm going to show you another sample of a Christmas card and then another card that's not a Christmas card, because I know not all of you want to make Christmas cards. But it is a season where I have a lot of people reach out and say, hey, I need some good Christmas card ideas, which is why I do so many holiday cards right, the month or so before the holidays. So to give you guys the opportunity to have some fun folds using holiday products that are coming up and give you some ideas. So let me take a moment to turn down the camera and we'll get started on this really cool card. Thanks for joining me today. Here's what we're using today. We are using the Bauble and Blooms stamps and dies, so the bundle. I love this. I've never actually purchased one quite like it with these ornaments. They're really fun. The sayings are really pretty. I love the fonts. They're a little different. There's some layering for the stamp and a die, of course, to cut it out, and then a couple of options for the ornament topper. And all you really need is some pretty ribbons, some pretty embellishments, some pretty paper, and you can make a million cards, different kind of cards out of this set. So we're going to be using that. And then I grabbed my 2 3/8 inch circle punch, so you'll want one of those. I grabbed a couple of rectangle dies for this particular card. This comes from the Stitched Rectangles, and I grabbed the second and third largest dies. But you can use your paper cutter to make rectangles. You can use whatever you have, so not a problem, not necessary to have a particular set. And of course the rectangle stitch dies I'm pretty sure are discontinued. Then I'm using some of this really pretty paper, and this comes from the Christmas Traditions paper pack, and this is a specialty paper. I know it's hard to see. The Traditions of Christmas is just really gorgeous. There's gold foil throughout the paper, and there's lots and lots of really great designs. So look at that. I love that green. It's just really pretty. So we're going to be using that today. And then I got really intrigued about the velvet paper. Let me just show you everything in order. So we've got some white, we've got some real red. You could also use cherry cobbler. I've got some old olive, so we're going to set that aside and get it out of the way here. And then look at this velvet. I mean, this is a scrap. Look at this velvet paper. So this paper is called All Season Velvet, and it comes in white, red, and green. And it's velvet, but it's paper on the back. So it's not super thick, and it's really easy to work with. And I just think it screams Christmas. So I got some of that to try out. And that's what we're using today. So let's get started. I'm going to grab my paper cutter. This is not a hard card to make at all. It's just some layering and a few folds. So let's see if I have a scrap already. I do. So you want to start out with a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of cardstock. So this is old olive, and this is just your basic card size, 5.5 by 8.5, but the scoring is going to be different. So we're going to score it at 2 1/8. Get that cutter out of the way. Now normally I flip it around and cut it at 2 1/8 again, but somebody taught me, a wise Lisa Curcio taught me a trick and said instead of scoring both sides, score one side and then fold your other side down and meet the edges. Let's do this without the paper cutter in the way. Fold the edges all the way to meet the side you scored already. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to do that. And then once you have it in place, just take your bone folder and give it a good burnish. And the reason she suggests this is because a lot of time when you score and score, they don't butt up against each other perfectly, but when you do it this way, they do. So just score one side, fold it over, and use your bone folder to score the other side. Okay? So that is our card base. All right, so let's grab paper cutter again so I can show you the rest of it. So you're going to want some designer series paper for 1, 2, 3, 4 panels. So you're going to need 4 pieces. These could be 4 different pieces or 4 of the same. I'm going to do 4 of the same, and they're going to be 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. So I know I can get 2 strips because this is a 12-inch piece of paper. So I'm just going to cut 2. Now you could also make it slightly smaller if you wanted to and put a mat behind these, and that would look really pretty too. I think it would look really pretty with shaded spruce or even red. There's also Secret Sea in this paper. You could layer it behind Secret Sea and that would be super pretty. So you do have options. Just make it 1/8 of an inch smaller each direction and then add your Secret Sea or whatever you choose. So you can step this card up very, very easily. All right, so there are our 4 pieces, and we're going to set those aside. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to set those aside. All right, and then the next thing we're going to do is our inside center. So we're going to need a piece of cardstock, and that's going to be 3 by 5 1/2. And I'm just looking here in my stash to see if I have any large pieces of cardstock. I'm not sure I do. Let's see if this is long enough. Oh, this might be long enough. All right. So what did I say we needed? We needed 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. Let's see if we have 5 1/4. We do. All right. I love when that works out. I've been having to make a decision, either start getting rid of some paper scraps or making sure I use them. So I've been working really hard on using my paper scraps because they tend to pile up around here. All right. So there's that. And then we want a piece of designer series paper to layer over it. And since we have this pretty shade of red, I thought this would be perfect. And this is a scrap. So this needs to be 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. I have my heater running. I have a little space heater that's built into my cabinet next to me. I have that on, and I have quiet. Oh, it's so nice to craft in the morning when it's like this. All right, and now we need our shutters. So this is very easy, but this is the most complex part of the card, I guess you could say, but it's really not. So I'm going to grab the same color. Actually, I think I'll use, I'm going to use the same color. You can use a different color, and that's perfectly fine, but we're going to go ahead and use the same color. So we need 2 pieces that are 3 1/2 by 4. So there's one. And here's another. Okay. Now, let's get these scraps out of the way. This card is super easy. While you have your paper at the 4-inch mark with the 4-inch at the top, go ahead and move it over a 1/2 inch and score it. All right, and then just go ahead and do that with the other one. Make sure the long side, the 4-inch side, is at the top. Move it over a 1/2 inch and score it. Okay, so now the next thing you're going to want to do is I like to grab a pencil and do it on my cutter, but you can use a ruler if you'd like. Let me show you how I do it on my cutter. So the half of this is 2 inches. So I'm going to move this over to the 2-inch mark, and what I'm trying to do is find a center point. So I'm going to just put a line here. Okay, now I'm going to rotate it to the 3 1/2 inch mark. The 3 1/2 inch side. Half of 3 1/2 inches is 1 3/4. So I'm going to put this on the 1 3/4 line, and then I'm going to draw my line again. Okay, so where these two intersect is the center point of my paper. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other piece. So I'm going to put it at 2 inches and give it a line. I'm making my line a little darker than I would normally because I want you to see it. And then I'm going to put it on 1 3/4 and draw my other line. So now I have my intersecting lines. Okay, So now the next thing we want to do is we're going to cut away from the intersection to the bottom corner and the intersection to the bottom corner. We're going to do that on both pieces, and that's going to make our shutter. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my cutter up here because I want my cutter not to be down here because you're going to end up with a wonky tip. So just put your cutter kind of on the paper. And so now I'm just lining up my marks, and then I'm just going to give it a little slice, and I'm just inching it up to my little center part. And now I'm going to rotate it and do the other side same exact way. I'm just going to line up my point and my mark and go ahead and inch it up there again, and that's what you're left with. Now you can either erase this or just use the opposite side. I use the opposite side, it's just easier. Alright, so we're going to do the exact same thing for the other side. So I'm going to line up my marks, and it's super easy to do when you have this nice clear cutting arm. Now I'm going to turn it and do the exact same thing. Okay, just like so. And there's our second one. All right. And that's all of our cutting. So now these two pieces will go together, and that's what creates our shutter. Okay? So let's go ahead and fold these down like a mountain. And remember, I just flipped it over so I didn't have to erase my lines. Or I have that extra step if you don't need it. All right. And then all we need, the only other thing we'll want is for the back of your card, because there's nowhere to write on the front, you're going to want to cut a piece for the back because most people, if you're like me, you want to write a message. So we're going to go ahead and cut one, and this is a great piece to layer if you choose to layer. Just put that on the back. If you have light cardstock, you don't have to add that piece on the back, but we have a darker cardstock, so we'll do it. All right, and then last but not least, you're going to want to punch out a circle. We're going to actually need two. So we're going to punch out a circle. Wonder if I have a scrap for that. Where are my white paper scraps? All right. I don't think I have one that big in there. So we're going to cut that out. All right. Now I'm going to show you how to put this card together. I'm very curious about where my white paper is. All right. So let's go ahead and grab our base. So the first thing we're going to do, I like to just go ahead and put my 4 strips on there. So we're going to go ahead and glue those on real quick. All right, so now that we have those 4 panels on there, we can start working on the rest of our card. So here are our 2 layers. These are going to go in the center. All right, so you want to start out with cutting them right, which I did it. This center piece should be 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. So I did this piece wrong. So your cardstock, and I'll make sure that everything is correct in the description below. This should have been 3 inches. 3 inches by 5 1/4. Or 5 1/2. 3 inches by 5 1/2. So make sure you go to my blog. That will actually have all of the correct cutting and scoring. All right. So the center piece, in case I said it wrong the first time. I don't remember what I said, but I obviously cut it wrong. So this piece should be 3 by 5.5. And then this is a 1/4 inch smaller. So this is 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. So it should look like that when it's layered together. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and glue that on. I love this side. So pretty. I almost hate to cover it up. But we got to cover it up for this card. All right. So I'm just going to pop this on. Just like so. Whoop. You know, it was more straight before I tried to straighten it. Okay, there we go. So now the next thing you want to do is we need to cut a circle out of the middle, and that's where our punch comes in. So I went ahead and cut out a little template, and I just keep it. So this is my template. This is punched out of that 2 3/8 inch punch. So I'm just visually getting it as close to the center as possible. So that looks pretty good right there. So I'm just going to hold it and grab my pencil and trace it. And this just helps me know exactly where to punch my circle, because otherwise you're just kind of, you're eyeballing it and it's really hard to tell where the center is. So I know you can't see it very well on camera, but there is a circle there. So now I'm going to grab that hole punch, that circle punch, and line it up, and it actually lines up perfectly on this. You couldn't do this with much bigger of a card. This works perfect with this card. And then we just pop that out, and we can use this for something else. And so now we have our centerpiece, and you really don't even need to erase anything, but I usually just run my eraser around it just to make sure there's no pencil showing. All right, so there's our center, and it's going to go right there. So all we have to do is put some dimensionals on there. Grab the wrong one. Grab my take your pick. And I'm going to put 3 at the bottom and 3 at the top. I just finished ordering some more of these because my daughter wants to do Christmas cards with me, and got to make sure I have enough. All right, so whichever side you want to be the top, they're pretty much the same. Leave those papers on and just take the bottom papers off for now. All right, so I'm going to take these 3 bottom papers off for now. And I'm going to, now you can use a ruler and mark it, and I have done that before. If you need to mark the center, you can do that, which would be 2 1/8. So if you're feeling like you really need to know where the center is, just put a little tick mark if that helps you. But you want to center this on the bottom of the card and butt it up against the edge of the card, just as close as you can. All right, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to be close. All right, so there's that, and see the top is still opened. All right, so now that the top's opened, we're going to start adding our other pieces. All right, so these are going to go like this, and they're going to be opposing. So go ahead and grab a strong adhesive. So you could use tear and tape or Seal Plus, or you can use liquid glue. It's just going to take longer to dry before you can mess with it. So I like to use the Seal Plus. It's just easy. So I'm going to grab my Seal Plus and make sure I don't go off. I kind of went off the edge a little. Okay. So you're going to grab your Seal Plus, and you're going to maneuver it to butt it up against the score line. And you're going to want to center it this way and this way, which also should work because you already centered your card too, your middle piece of your card. So you get it as close to the center as you can. And once that looks good, then go ahead and fold that down and give it a good press. All right? So there's our first mechanism. So now we're going to turn around and do the other side, the opposite way. So I'm just going to grab that Seal Plus again. And a tip for the Seal Plus, if you struggle with it going all wonky and coming off, just don't push hard. Just get it started, and then just give it a nice, easy drag down the paper. And this will not get all skewed about.
I used to push on it too hard, and that's exactly what used to happen to me. All right, so we're going to lay this one in. And now the important thing to do when you lay this piece in is you want your edges to line up. Okay, so see how, I know it's hard to see here, but you want to make sure your points are flush up against your other cardstock. Okay, because you want everything to be nice and smooth. So I'm butting that up against the edge of the score line, just like before. And I'm making sure that my edges are straight, and then I'm going to give it a good press. Okay, now I like to go ahead and just cut these little tips away, because sometimes they can get caught up anyways, and I just cut them away. The one that's on the top is the only one that shows. The other one doesn't show. So I just cut it away. So now there's our shutter. Isn't that great? Works perfectly every time too. All right, let's move this out of the way. So now we're going to do some decorating. So we need to put our message on the inside, and you're probably wondering, well, how are you going to do that? It's not hard at all. Let me show you. So I grabbed 2 ink pads today. I grabbed Old Olive and Real Red, and I'm planning on using the Real Red for my sentiments. And we're going to, let's add "and glad tidings." I like that word because it's not something we put all the time on our cards. So I'm grabbing "and glad tidings," and it will work. Putting it on my block. Now you could mask it if you wanted to and make it "and glad" and then tidings underneath, but I found it works just fine this way. And I'm going to center it just like so, okay? Very easy. Put some cleaner on my stamp pad. Clean that stamp. All right, I had so much red ink when I was making my sample yesterday on my fingers. It was ridiculous. All right, so we're going to be putting this on inside of our card. So I'm going to go ahead and use that Seal Plus again, because once you put it in, you want it to be stuck. All right, so all you have to do, make sure the card top is open up. Hold on to your circle and then just slide it under there. And it's kind of stuck to my finger right now, which is what I wanted. So I am just maneuvering it to where it looks really good when the shutter's open. Hopefully you can see that. And then there it is. So that's all you have to do. Super simple. All right. So now that that's connected, we can go ahead and take these little papers off these other dimensionals. You could very easily crank out a bunch of these cards for Christmas. They do not take any time at all. So now you just push that down and it's all done. Okay? So before you came on, I went ahead and did some die cutting. So this is my greeting for the front. Joyous wishes to you and yours. And then when they open it, it says "and glad tidings." So I thought that looked really nice. So I went ahead and cut that. And then I went ahead and stamped in Old Olive the greenery. And the order I did these in, I found the easiest way to do this is to do the greenery and then add the red outline piece. This just worked for me. So I stamped in red and did the outline stamp. And then I stamped in red again and stamped off to make the red lighter and then did the fill. So that was the order that works really well for me. And then I went ahead and die cut my little topper for my ornament. Now I used a retired product. I used this, I'm pretty sure it's retired silver and gold glimmer paper. I love this paper. I've been using it very sparingly because I don't want to run out because it's so pretty for holiday cards. But you could use regular gold metallic paper, which is current. So here's the gold metallic. That would look really good as well. But I wanted to get some glitz and glam. So I went ahead and used this. And those are my 3 pieces. And then those 2 rectangles, I cut one in Real Red, and then I cut the slightly smaller one in that beautiful velvet. But look how pretty this pops against the velvet. So, so pretty. All right, so we're going to go ahead and assemble these. So I'm going to grab some liquid glue and just add some glue to the back. I love how this velvet paper is not thick at all. I was wondering how thick it was going to be when I ordered it because I've never had it before. I don't know if they've ever offered it before, but I've never purchased it before. And it's not thick at all. It's not any thicker than cardstock. So I love that you can get the texture, but you don't have to have the bulk. All right, so there's that. And then now you can just, I have this glimmer paper and I can just simply peel off the paper backing that comes on it and put this on there. Normally you would probably have to use glue. So you can put it way up here, or I just put it down here. Just like so. Okay, I'm just going to press it on there. That looks pretty. And I'm going to go ahead and use some dimensionals, I think. Yeah, I'll use some dimensionals. This is a Christmas card, so it's always good to make those extra special. So I'm just going to put one at the top. I am probably going to make a dozen of these for Christmas. I send a lot of Christmas cards, so I make a lot. I probably make 50 or 60 cards because I send them to all of my family and friends, and then I also send them to my customers and fellow demonstrators and stuff. So lots of cards getting sent, lots of product needed, that's for sure. But this will definitely have to be one of them because I really like how this card comes out. All right, we corralled all those little beasts. So I'm just going to center this on my card. Look how pretty that pops. I mean, isn't that gorgeous? So pretty. Just love it. All right, and then we're going to add the sentiment. I'm going to put it here, so I know I don't need any embellishments on the J because that's going to sit on top of the ornament. Excuse me. Haven't had my coffee yet. You know that hinders me. I've already cut something wrong today. Oh, need my coffee. I would love to make it ahead of time. We're looking for a streamlined coffee pot. Right now we do pour over, which we've done for 5 years since we've been RVing. But if we could find a really streamlined coffee pot that doesn't take up a ton of space, a really good one, we would totally get it. We just haven't figured out which one to get yet because we're getting a little tired of making pour over sometimes. And it would be nice for me to just flip a coffee pot on and not grind our beans and stuff and wake my husband up. So there we go. There's our front. So now this is just going to go centered on the front of the card. So obviously we're only going to adhere it to one panel. So I'm just going to add my liquid glue to one side, just like so. And now I'm just going to center it onto there as good as I can get it and as straight as I can get it. There we go. All right, that looks good. Just check the back, make sure there's no glue sticking up. All right, so last but not least, we need to embellish it. So I grabbed the traditional sparkling sequence. Goes perfectly with the traditions of Christmas paper. So the question is, what color do we use? Let's go ahead and use the red because I think that'll be pretty. So let's go ahead and put one up there. And then let's put these guys. Should we put these guys? We'll put one here. I never know where I'm going to put these until I put them on there. Let's just put one. See, I should put this one over here. And then we'll put this one over here. All right. Make sure that's stuck on there since I took it off. All right, that looks good. Last but not least, I think it needs a bow. So you could use any kind of red ribbon. Let's see. I actually have this really glitzy, I don't know where it came from, but it's gold and it's shiny, so we're using it. But use what you have. White would look pretty here, green would look pretty, red. I mean, you can't really go wrong with anything. So I'm just making a simple little bow. And we're going to grab our scissors and just give it a little trim. And I'm going to grab a little glue dot. And I'm going to ball it up a little bit because obviously it's too big. So I'm going to ball it up a little bit so it's smaller. Just like that. And I'm going to put it right there at the top. And then I just press my thumb on there a few times to get rid of any stickiness that might be left. All right, let's get this a little more trim. So there we go. There is our card. And then for the back, let's just add a simple Merry Christmas. I also think it would be really pretty to add another ornament to the back, but for the sake of time, we're just going to use Merry Christmas. So I'm going to grab that real red real quick. And we're going to stamp it. My head is nowhere near the middle of the camera, so who knows where that went. That looks pretty good. And Christmas. I am going to have to stand up to do that one. Okay, I don't know how I managed to get that straight. Close these up. All right, and then we're just going to add some liquid glue to the back. You could add some embellishments. So now I have plenty of room to write on the back of my card, because I always write a little message. I've never been a holiday letter person, but I do like to write a lot on the back of my Christmas cards. This would be a pretty place to add some more embellishments too. Let's just do that instead of stamping anything else. We can add, where's my take a pick tool? We can add, let's do a few colors this time. Whoops. So we'll add some green. Let's just do that. That looks pretty. Give it a little bit of sparkle. All right, we're done. So that was minimal steps to make this beautiful card. Look how pretty it is. Joyous wishes to you and yours. Let's hold it so it's probably in the camera. Joyous wishes to you and yours, and glad tidings. Isn't that pretty? So there's our first card. And here is another Christmas card. I made this with Festive Friends. And this time I used that red velvet paper in the back, and I used my Stylish Shapes dies. And I did a little stamping on the pool party. Super cute. And then I added Wink of Stella to the snowman, because snow kind of looks sparkly in real life, right? And then some simple embellishments, and inside it says, "We wish you a Merry Christmas." So I didn't even put a greeting on the front, just made it very, very plain. And then this is that, can't decide if I like how it came out. I did this with real red, but it looks pink. But this is the Silent Snowflake Designer Series paper, and it's embossed. It's an embossed paper, and I was hoping, this is the first time I did this, I was hoping that the embossed part would not pick up color, but it does. So I had rubbed it with a brush with real red. Of course it looks more pink. And then I went ahead and added Wink of Stella to each of the snowflakes to make them sparkle. And of course that makes the snowflakes a little darker. And it came out okay, it's just not my favorite. So if I did it again, I would probably leave that paper alone and not color it, and maybe just add some Wink of Stella or some embellishments to it. But you know what? You don't know unless you try. And since this is plain on the back, I can go ahead and write. I may add a little stamp on the back, a little greeting or a little sentiment, and then I can sign on the back. So there is my second card. So it needs a little tweaking. And this is my third card, and this is uses the beautiful gallery and beautiful motifs in that gorgeous paper, gallery and blooms, something like that. And it's very simple. I just took a piece of the designer series paper and cut it down into a square using square dies. So this is also stylish shapes. And I used Mossy Meadow and Basic Beige because those are the colors in this beautiful paper. Then I just cut out a tiny little hotel hello tag and added a piece of ribbon. I'm pretty sure this is peach pie or whatever colors in the paper, petal pink. I don't think it's petal pink. I can't get my ribbons out of their little holder to tell you what color it is. Just hold your card up to your ribbon and pick a ribbon that looks good. So this says hello, and it says you've been on my mind. Isn't that pretty? And this is just another side of that same designer series paper. So very simple and elegant. And again, it's a light colored card, so I have plenty of room to write on the back. So adding a panel on the back is totally up to you. So here are my 3 samples. This is definitely my favorite, and it will definitely be one of my Christmas card options. So I hope you like this card as much as I do, and I hope you can try out this Shutterfold. It is so easy, and I always used to think, man, that must be really complex. But you know what? When you make them, you'll find out it's very, very easy to make. So don't forget to go to my blog. It will give you all the accurate cutting and scoring instructions. It'll also show you the products that I use for each of my cards. And you can also subscribe to my newsletter there. I send it out at the beginning of each month. It usually has a card layout that I give you, some information about what's going on with Stampin' Up! And some upcoming events and sales and different things. And then the last page always wraps up with some of the things that we've been doing while we wandered around. So I usually have some pictures, and then I kind of wrap up what went on during the month so you kind of know where I'm wandering or what I'm doing. So I am Jill the Wandering Stamper. I hope you enjoyed this video today. Please subscribe to my channel if you did, and click that bell so you get a reminder every time my videos post. I am going to go make the coffee now because it is time for my husband and my dog to get up, and I will work on my next video. So I will see you next week with a brand new card. I'm Jill the Wandering Stamper. Have a great day. Bye.